This is Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium.
Today's guest is Rahway Band. Straight out of the gritty heart of New Jersey, Rahway has built a fierce reputation as one of the region's hardest-hitting rock bands. Their sound is a high-octane blend of old-school metal, modern hard rock, and raw and streetwise attitude. The lineup features Nick Hade on vocals, David Cardenas on guitar, Chigger on bass, Steve Cardenas on drums, each bringing power and precision to each and every performance. Together, they deliver heavy riffs, soaring vocals, and an unapologetic energy that's 100% Jersey. Rahway announced a groundbreaking partnership with Pavement Entertainment, a renowned record label, in 2024. This collaboration marked the exciting new chapter in Rahway's musical journey. Backed by the support and expertise of Pavement Entertainment, fans were treated to fresh and captivating music as Rahway and Pavement Entertainment work together to reach new heights. Audiences stay tuned for announcements and tour dates as Rahway and Pavement Entertainment redefine the boundaries of their musical success. It's a pleasure to have you on, guys.
Nice. Thanks for having us.
Wow.
Pleasure to be here.
Wow, I have 3 of 4 members of this band in front of me right now, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting because I just recently saw you. I had the great opportunity to see you at Starland in New Jersey. And the first band that opened, I think, was Mainline. And then from Mainline, it was my friends in 10 Ton Mojo. And then we rolled right into Rahway. And I was like blown away. I was just like standing there videotaping. And my friends were like, oh my God, this band's so great. And I was just like, this is incredible. So I'm so pleased to have you on. You know, I'm hearing a lot about you, but you have a lot going on. You have a lot that's coming up in your future. So this is not a psychic reading. You guys you're making your own psychic reading with what's going on with your music. So I want to be able to introduce all of you, make sure the audience has a chance to hear all of you individually, all of your individual journeys. It's just such a pleasure. Let's start with Nick on vocals.
How are you? I'm Nick Hade of Rahway, the slumlords of New Jersey, giving it to you the raw way. You know, born and raised in New Jersey. Not too much to say. I kind of like to keep things a little bit mysterious, but just to let you know, we are working on a comic book that's going to detail how I actually got into the band, auditioned, and then like things that happened from there and like little bits of my life. I have a little bit of a rough past, but I'm not sure if we have enough time to even go over that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm a 4-octave vocalist, E2 to G6, so I could sing, bass all the way up to almost mezzo soprano. I actually am semi-talented on piano. A lot of people tell me that often, but I don't like to brag about anything because majority of the skills and talents that I have came from hard work, aside from my 4-octave vocal range. But I'm a lyric baritone, which is usually like the main voice in like some operas and things like that. I was trained classically at Monmouth University by a bunch of people, actually. There's Dr. Tripold, who was one of the teachers I had. A man named Ron Frangipani, who wrote the song Sugar Sugar. He was one of my teachers. Mark Moeller, who was a guitarist for Shania Twain. I had songwriting lessons with him. And there's a couple other things here and there. I don't want to hog all the spotlight. I want to make sure that Chig and Steve get to say something too. So I'll pass it along.
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting, your whole description of how you sang, because I watched you. You're not just a singer, you're a performer. You were jumping around on the stage. Actually, I had like visions of like, I kept telling my friend last night, Rob Caggiano, I was like, you got to hear this band. I was just like, oh my God, the singer reminds me of Vanilla Ice. I'm like, you remember Ice Ice Baby? And he was cracking up. I said, yeah, but his hairdo. I said, he's got more of a Sid Vicious, like super punk, like hair sticking up and super gel and all that.
I've gotten Vanilla Ice so many times. I've gotten what was the other one? Johnny Knoxville. I've heard a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of things. As far as the performance aspect, that's always been a work in progress. I consider it the Voltron effect. All of us come together and, essentially after shows, we'll, if certain things are a little strange or a little, like I personally watch back every single video that has Rahway and it has myself in it, so that I can look at, like, if you're an aspiring musician, take note of this. Make sure you watch your videos, maybe even your first few shows that you do. Make sure you record all of them and watch them back. Look at your hand movements, look at what you said to the audience, how it affected them. You know, if you're a very new artist and maybe you're young and you got like stage fright or something like that, a trick that you can do, I don't really do this because I have zero stage fright anymore. I'm ready to go all the time, anytime. But anybody else who's just starting to get their feet wet, if you get nervous on stage, try looking at the back of the wall right over people's heads. And if somebody starts looking at you, or look at the person who's not looking at you, and once they look at you, look at someone else, because you don't want to stay on someone too long, because some people get really nervous and kind of feel weird about that. So you want to be cautious of that. But as far as the energy and you know, the stage performance, I critique myself, and I also run everything by everybody in the band. And you know, I got to say that Chig, Steve, and Dave, they all helped me along the way to become a better performer. So I can't take all the credit for that by myself, you know. And I always consider the greater, like the band as a whole, more important than just my individual personality on stage, because ultimately everybody in the band puts something into the band and puts their touch on it. And it doesn't matter if somebody wrote one of the lines or one of the guitar riffs or this or that. In the end, you know, it's all Rahway. It's all of us. I also make sure to conduct myself in a way, even outside of band things, that would not drag the band down or do anything that would jeopardize, you know, our fan base or anything like that. Like when we do shows, we don't just have shows. We have what we call family reunions, where basically everybody in the crowd is there for the same reason. We all love rock music. We're all one rock family. We try to incorporate that as much as we can, because we really do care. You know, we've thrown shows for, you know, 988 and you know, like, well, had 988 influence. We had friends that we've lost that, you know, meant a lot to us. And we reach out to people and dedicate certain shows to certain people. We really care. We put out some hard music, but we also like to make sure we connect with people. We try to talk to as many, like me personally, I'll stay to the very end of the show when everyone's leaving. I will talk to any person out there. If you come to one of our shows and you want to meet me, you can make it happen. I can make it happen. You just got to catch us at the merch table or just see me walking around, because I get in the audience as well. Now, I just really love to pick people's brains, and I like to listen to the fans and what they've been through, because that affects me, especially when I'm writing things. You know, I keep that stuff in mind, and I love stories. You know, I love to kind of live vicariously through other people when they tell me their stories. I like to see where they came from, you know, what they've been through, because I've been through quite a few things. You know, I've had quite a few people close to me that, you know, I've lost to suicide. I've almost died 10 times. I mean, I lived through a race war in high school. There were 30 people almost stabbed me. You know, I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me in my lifetime. So I like to hear how drastic and crazy other people's lives have been, and try to like let them know, like, hey, listen, if you're in pain, you're not alone. But at the same time, we also like to write music that lifts people up, gives them energy to do things. You know, we also like to sound different. We're called Rahway for a reason. We do things raw. We don't have computers up on stage. We don't have auto tune. You don't do any of that. If you hear me kind of go off key, that's raw. That's real. That's the human element. When you come to our shows, you're getting the human element. And that's what we want to give people in this day and age where everything's AI and computers. We want to give you that experience. You know what I mean? And
he's never off key. He's never off key, though. He's never off key.
I mean, I'm a really hard critic on myself, so I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, I don't know. Do you know how Rahway was even named?
No, I was thinking of asking you that. What's the story behind that?
So the story, I
Wait,
so
hold
now,
on.
okay,
I think Steve should tell that story.
Yeah, Steve, you tell me.
Oh, we're moving right now. All right, so now we have Steve, our drummer. So, Steve, you're going to have to speak for yourself and also your brother, David, who's not here tonight. So you're going to have to give us the story on both of you and then tell the history of the band. So you got a lot on your shoulders right now.
All right. So my name is Steve Cardenas. Me and my brother, we started the band like years ago. It's been going on for like, I don't know, well over 30 years, but it changed over the years, you know, different lineups, different names. So this lineup has been the longest, and I think it's the best one so far. What was the question? Oh yeah, the name. So the name of the band was Sun, and then we hooked up with Jack Douglas, who is Aerosmith's producer.
During the honkin' at Bobo era.
Yes, and he liked it us, but we had to change our name because we found out that there was like a couple other bands called Sun internationally. So we changed the name to Pushrod, like the car park, you know. So when Aerosmith was recording their blues album, he was talking to Steven Tyler about us getting into the Boston Aerosmith studio to record. And he's like, "Oh, what's the band's name?" He said, Pushrod. He's like, "Oh, I don't like that. It sounds like Nidrod, you know." And he's like, "Where did they live?" And at the time, we were practicing in Rahway, in a loft. And he's like, "Oh, well, they practice in Rahway." He's like, "Oh, they should call the band Rahway." So really, Steven Tyler named the band. So that's
awesome.
where that came from. Yeah, we try not to say it too loud because we don't want them to cash in on the name. What else you want to know?
So I want to know about you, how you started playing the drums and how your brother was involved with the guitar. And
oh, well, we've been playing since we were kids. We grew up poor, so my dad, we used to pester him about playing music. So when he bought us instruments, it was like very serious. So it was like, if I'm getting this for you, you got to practice, and you got to really go for it. So when we were kids, if we got punished, the punishment was go to your room and practice. And be like, "Ah, man." But that's how it kind of started. But luckily for us, our parents have been very supportive, and later on, my mom was very supportive. So that always helped out. And we never stopped playing. It's just been like air for us. A lot of people that we've known played and gave it up, and me and my brother, we can't comprehend that. Life, family, all that stuff. It's like we still play, we still practice every week. Blah blah blah. I mean, I've been playing my whole life, so.
So I have to ask you, since you're the drummer of the band, a lot of my friends are drummers. Who were your original influences on drums?
Definitely John Bonham, Alex Van Halen for sure. A little bit of Gene Cooper, and
Tommy Lee.
Yeah, Tommy Lee too. But later on, but more of my stuff came from John Bonham, Buddy Rich. I definitely grew up with a lot of Buddy Rich. And that was basically my foundation. There's other drummers I like, Neil Peart and all those guys, but that was my main foundation. That's pretty much it. I don't vary too much.
So it's interesting because since you were doing drums and your brother was doing guitar, did you kind of switch off back and forth, or you always stayed true to your instruments?
I always stayed true to my instrument. I could play guitar too, but I'm nowhere near what my brother is. I write enough. I could play enough to write a song, but when I bring it to the band, my brother hates it because it's kind of cheesy. It's not guitar worthy, I guess, or whatever.
Well, that's not true. Let's just Steve is he's playing himself down. He does a lot of the songwriting in the band, comes up with a lot of our catchier songs. Dave's the riff writer, and then it's a collaboration. Steve is basically like one of the main songwriters, was one of the main songwriters when I came in the band.
Steve's been called the songbird of his generation.
Yeah, don't don't let him downplay his
no,
role.
Basically, you bring an idea to the group, and then it gets dispersed, and everybody puts their thing into it, and it gets torn up and put back together. So
what's dispersed? What does that mean?
She don't like that kind of talk, damn it. Anyways, by the time it's all said and done, it's a 4-way operation, at the end of the day. But yeah, like a lot of stuff, like we're coming up with something and we're looking for like that catchy chorus or something. I'm usually good like that with a melody, or I record a lot of ideas on my phone, just humming it or whatever. But for the most part, at the end of the day, it's a 4-way operation because it would never be that song unless if we didn't put all that effort into it,
That makes sense. So before, I guess it was Chigger on bass that was chiming in. So what is your story? How did you get involved with playing the bass, Chigger?
It's funny. I started playing the bass as a guitar player, and then I noticed that the bass had 4 strings instead of 6, so it was a lot easier to learn how to play. So I saw Nikki Sixx play for the first time at the Meadowlands Arena. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be Nikki Sixx. I want to be Nikki Sixx. I don't want to learn to be Nikki Sixx. I want to be him. So I learned to play the bass just like him, learn his moves, try to learn everything. And then one day I was delivering Chinese food to the Cardenas brothers, and they're like, "Hey, you play bass?" And I go, "Yeah."
You hear that?
You can't leave. You can never leave. And I'm like, "Why? I have to deliver all this Chinese food." And they're like, "Well, you can never leave."
There's something about that Kung Pao chicken, man. You can't leave.
They loved it. They loved it. So I've been with the band ever since. I'm only kidding. That never happened. That never happened. I know the Cardenas brothers for a very long time. They're like the Van Halens of New Jersey. I've been part of the local New Jersey scene for a very long time. I wrote a column in the Aquarian Weekly called Aquarian Weekly is a music newspaper in the Northeast area, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. And I befriended a lot of the bands. So when I was in a band called Smoke Star. We did a lot of shows with the Rahway guys. So what happened was when their bass player was deciding he wanted to move to Florida and continue his family, Dave secretly asked me to come and join Rahway. But Bobby, their old bass player, was still part of the band. So we formed a side project. And what was the name, Steve? What was the name of the side project?
I don't remember, man.
I don't know. You had the name for it.
What's it? We were Rahway, so it was like Way Raw or something like that.
Something stupid. You had it.
It was like the reverse Rahway.
Yeah. And then when Bobby moved to Florida, Dave was like, "All right, well, we got this new singer, Nick. He's awesome. He played me a few tracks. He played me Yesterday. He played me High." And I was like, "Wow." I'm like, "This kid can sing." And I definitely would want to be a part of it. So they gave me the songs to learn. And then Steve didn't want me in the band at all. Like it was always Nick and Dave. They always wanted me they wanted me in. And me and Steve fought for like years, but now we're like best friends. Like, I love the guy. We're tight. And I've seen Nick grow as a singer. Like he explained himself before. We've grown as a band. We've grown as writers. As you saw the final product when we played with Ace Frehley, we're a very energetic band, very well written band. And if that wasn't the case, Pavement wouldn't have recognized it. And we're on to bigger and better things. When I got into the band, I had a huge connection to the concert business. So I was able to get us onto a lot of big shows, like the Rock Carnival in Lakewood, Clark, New Jersey, where we opened for some of the biggest bands like Godsmack, Slash, Stone Temple Pilots. It was a big festival. And then we got asked to do Rock and Derby up in Schaghticoke, New York. So we were getting on these big festivals, and before you know it, our name started to get around. And then we did another interview with I think Juliet Huddy or something like that. And she asked us, "Well, how would I describe Rahway?" And I said, "We are the Slumlords of New Jersey." I don't know. And it just stuck. So now we've been known as the Slumlords of New Jersey. We put an EP out named the Slumlords of New Jersey. So we've been just trucking along ever since. And come July 25th, it'll all come to one big explosion when we release our first self-titled LP under Pavement.
Wow, this is so exciting. So how long were you playing? Like you mentioned a couple of festivals. And so how long was that? Was that over a period of 2 years, 5 years?
Actually, my first show with Rahway was the Rock Carnival in 2015. So we've been together for 10 years now, this lineup.
Wow, that's incredible. I find it interesting because a lot of people, now everyone's back at all the concerts, and everyone kind of went through a bit of a hiatus when we had COVID. And we had kind of like went through withdrawals of live music. And now when you go out to events, I mean, just the Ace Frehley event, it was wall-to-wall people. And it was wall-to-wall people literally from the first band that hit the stage. People started coming in and they weren't leaving. I guess before COVID, people would come and go in a venue. But I really noticed it recently when you guys played with Ace Frehley. People stayed, and they stayed in their spots, There wasn't a lot of movement there. I think that's actually a testimony to the bands that were playing. 10 Ton Mojo, I know those guys from Long Island. They have a ton of energy, too. And both bands, I have to say your band and 10 Ton Mojo, both bands together have recognizable songs that when you play them, you're like, I know this song, And I think that's really great because when you're playing from one event to another, your band actually recognizes your music. And now that you start having music dropping and you're able to download it or stream it or whatever, just more and more success because people have heard you live. I guess I'm going to ask the band a question. How did you find Pavement Entertainment? How did that come about?
Well, we have friends that were signed by them. I still work in the concert promotion business and I have those connections. And one day I realized that Pavement Entertainment was like one of the vendors that were coming in and we were promoting concerts for a band called Plush, who they're really behind right now. It's an all-girl band. So I reached out to the president of the company and I said, hey, I sent your label our songs and I want to see where we could fit in here. He gave it a listen. His name is Mark Namora. And he said, listen, my partner, Tim King, is going to reach out to you guys. He's like, stand by. And he reached out to us, sent us an email, said, we'd like to have you guys on our label.
That's great. I find it interesting because you seem to have already a connection. What would be the best advice for bands out there that might be local that don't have that concert connection? What would be the best way that they can go about trying to get their foot in the door kind of a thing?
Well, my advice would be to just keep making as many connections as possible. I know people don't know what a Rolodex is, but I have one in my head yeah, I guess it's on my phone now, on my cell phone now, but I have a laundry list of people that I can go to if I need something for Rahway, and a laundry list of media that I can go to if I need something promoted. I'm a PR guy at heart.
So when I saw you guys play live, I know you were doing a lot of your songs, but have you played many covers when you play live?
We've done, I think we've done like 2 so far, right? And
No, one.
Years ago we did that Century 21 or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was the first show we ever played. We did,
but it's
20
more
Century
like
Boy.
It's more like a remake. It's a little bit heavier. It's not exact, We did the Wings Jet, Paul McCartney. That's actually, I think, is going to be on the
On
album.
the CD.
Yep. Yeah. So we've done a few. We're talking about trying to throw a couple more in the mix down the road, but we're not into doing it exactly. We try to do it like more like a remake. So I don't know. It's in the works,
Yeah, the population of listeners now, I find the audience is younger and younger all the time. So that kind of helps, the older artists that had those original hits. The younger generation doesn't know those songs. I mean, I'm older, so I know the original song. But then when you hear, like, almost like you described as a remix, sometimes the remix is better than the original. I mean, you feel like weird saying that, but, sometimes it's like it catches on a little bit better,
Not too much different, like we're changing the song, more like it's heavier. It's maybe shorter because a lot of those older songs were like really long, Nothing too crazy. I want people to recognize what song it is,
So I wanted to talk about your playing spaces. I know that every venue you go to, there's always going to be something that you have to adjust to. So it's either the size of the stage or how the venue is set up. What are your goals for the future? Like, do you have aspirations where you would like to see this band play, or do you have a top 5? Like, I can't wait until they invite us to do this, this, and this.
Oh, hey, I got this one. So going back to the earlier part of what you were just asking, you mentioned stage space, and what are some of the things that you kind of think? I will tell you, as a singer, our drummer has the most obnoxious kick drum I've ever seen. This thing is long. It's like as long as it feels like it's as long as a car.
He's compensating.
When we do Starland Ballroom in Sayreville, with a lot of national acts and stuff, we were honored to be the supporting act for Ace Frehley. But sometimes we're a little bit further down in the list. It depends on if they bring their own support and all that. So earlier on in the band days, when we did some of those shows, Steve would have this huge kick drum there, and I'm trying to get from one side of the stage to the other. But because it's so long, I have to literally jump over this thing every time. And sometimes it trips me up, especially when we're throwing beach balls out in there and, in the audience. And, some people are trying to have fun with us. They try to throw them at us, and then I accidentally kick one and it blasts somebody in the face, and whatever happens. But, as far as the stage space, that's what I would say is my problem with Steve's kick drum. But aside from that, as far as where we want to play everywhere. I mean, well, a lot of musicians, we all dream of getting up there on the, in the arenas, 20,000. My personal, where I want to go, one of my check boxes, my bucket list items is to play a festival to a sea of heads. I want to have a picture where, somebody's taking a picture from behind us on stage and I'm like holding the mic stand and, and I got everybody just going crazy. Like, that's what I dream of. But, I'll pass it on to Chig and Steve, so they can speak their mind as well.
Time we played in Virginia and we played in that little club and we had that small stage that we played on. We've been on the smallest stages and we've been on some of the biggest stages. And Steve's drum kit, it's next online. It hinders our stage show for sure. But we've also put Steve on the side of the stage. Remember, we put him to the side somewhere. Right? Our goal is to play arenas, stadiums, obviously, because I think the music, that's what it calls for. And that's what they're written for. But Steve's drum kit needs a bigger stage. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out. It's just not.
Yeah. It's hard for me too, because with the drums the way they are, and if I don't have too much space, it's hard for me to even play. And then my other big thing is with sound, so like I'm into, like, if the place has a good sound system, because a lot of our songs relies on good sound, that's my piece.
Well, that makes sense. I have to tell you something, Steve. I interviewed a couple of guys from a band in the 1960s, and it was called the Tangerine Puppets. And two famous guys were in the Tangerine Puppets, and that was Tommy and Johnny Ramone. And it was their first band before the Ramones. Rich Adler tells a story about how in the 60s, it wasn't like you could just put all your equipment in a car and drive from gig to gig. These guys were like in high school. They were playing for like senior proms and stuff. So they were carrying the drum kits and stuff onto the subways and like literally traveling around in the 1960s with their gear on subways. So that's why when they were describing like the size of your kit and everything and your drum and all this stuff, it's amazing because I think equipment, like when you think back to 50 or 60 years ago, we've made such advances with equipment. Also with sounds. I think everything sounds incredibly better now. But also I think our equipment is bigger. And it's probably a lot heavier, and it probably has more of a quality sound coming from it. They're making fun of you taking up all that space on stage. Can you imagine them making fun of you taking all that space up on a subway?
Well, you know what? We are fortunate enough that we, there's a shout out to our roadies, because we have a whole roadie crew. And they help us out so much. I tell them after every show how much I appreciate them. And I know that some of you guys are going to be listening to this. Want you guys to know we appreciate it every time that we had guys literally drive from Long Island all the way out to Michigan, when we did a tour with Tantric and Scotty Austin, all these guys. These guys are road warriors. And our one guitar tech, like, he tunes everything up in the middle of songs and all sorts of stuff. And like, if anything even happens, he's like winging a guitar at Dave or, our drum tech. He's wild. If the kick drum moves while Steve is playing, he will drill right into the stage a block of wood to stop it. Like, these guys are phenomenal. And you know what? I would say any bands out there, if you come across people that are willing to roadie for you and really be there for you, you should embrace that.
Nothing.
Because like they help so much. Because like, for example, the shows that Chig was talking about, like the Clark show, the food truck festival, or even the Scatico show, you're showing up to load in at like 8, 9, 10 a.m. and you're there for like 5-6 hours before you even get on stage. And then when it's your time to go, all of a sudden you got to get up there quick or you're gonna lose stage time. So having somebody who's gonna actually be on that helps you to be more confident about your actual performance, because you don't have to think about that. You've got 100% ready to go people that are already on it. And that's why I tell them every single show how much I appreciate them. And I also make sure to, let our videographer know that, our manager, our merch people, like all that stuff. We make sure that we thank everybody and that we let them know how appreciated they are, because they are really like family to us. People like that come along once every 1,000 people you meet, if that,
You're right, because I think gratitude goes a long way. And I think
yeah.
all of those people are what I call like silent heroes. I mean, could be like a really well known band, and all of a sudden the string breaks, and here comes the guitar attack. It's just like you see their invisible capes like flying behind them
Yeah.
as they go
Yes.
out to save the day. That's why I give you guys so much credit, because there's a lot of pressure on you guys because you don't know who's in the audience. It could be a talent
Yeah.
scout, somebody who's just super critic, or it could be
Yeah.
somebody saying, wow, I really admire this. But like in any job you do, you feel like you're under the microscope sometimes. That's why I really appreciated what Nick said in the beginning is when you're new, you videotape yourself because you want to know what you did good, and you also want to know what you can improve on. We used to talk about this in the Army, but the best performance is one that's done by repetition and rehearsal. And anybody that thinks that they can get up and do it without rehearsing is probably out of their mind, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you got some savants out there that can wing some stuff. And I mean, there's been times that like, I mean, we've been doing this so long that if somebody like if I need to talk longer, or if I do a certain verse and I want to say something, like for example at Ace Frehley, I can on the fly stop the song, right? And just be like, y'all ready for Ace Frehley? And people go crazy and then jump boom right back into the hook. But that's the difference between professional, when you meet up like clockwork and you always work on perfecting your craft, and also you have to remember that if you're doing a show and there's a headliner and you're not the headliner, you have to make sure that you thank everybody that put it together, and you got to make sure that you big up the main line. If you're a supporting act, you have to support, and we're all in this together. We're all musicians. We all love the same thing, music. We're all there for the same reason, to have a great time, party. And guess what? You know what? I don't care who's in the crowd. If you are the only one in the crowd, I'm going 110 just for you. I'll be right up in your camera because I want to give you the experience. Like I said, from what I know, we might only live once, and I want to make sure that this ride through is the best one I ever had. And I want to make sure that I go and I ask my roadies and all the people that are involved with us, where do you want to go next? You want to go to Germany? You want to go to Japan? Well, I want to blow the band up enough to get you there, not me, to get everybody else there. Because you know what? This is the ride. If you're sitting here always looking at the goal and working on everything else, you're going to miss the entire trip. You got to enjoy what you're doing. Like one of my favorite bands, Atreyu, when they did the Lead Sails and Paper Anchors album, they felt like they're getting too commercial. And so they were like, ended up breaking up, but they got back together under the idea that we're going to have fun. And if we stop having fun, that's it. And every time we have a show, right before we go on, we all put our hands in. And I say, hey, guys, I don't care what happens. Let's just have fun. Can we just have fun? It's like we're all brothers, and we're just out there being rowdy,
Like when me and my brother started, we used to always play in the city. We always did our own equipment. It was a pain in the ass. People don't realize how much work is involved. And it's like in the city, some of these places, you got to bring your equipment up the stairs, back down the stairs. Then you have to get up on stage and look like you're having a great time when you're just exhausted. And I remember when this lineup finally started going, I remember I was in a bad car accident. And like when I was able to play again, we had a show, all the equipment again, I'm setting it up, and then we were done and I'm breaking it down. And, you got to be fast breaking it down too, so you're breaking it down and we're loading it in the truck. And I remember the first thing I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not 20, I'm not 21. You know what I mean? I can't, it's hard, we got to get a road crew. We need to take a moment out and get a road crew. And so we did that because, again, play like a show like Starland. When we get up on stage, we need to look happy. We need to have fun. And it's not fun if you're just lugging stuff around all day and you're on a time frame. It's not fun, so our road crew is huge to us. I know like Nick always says we're having a family reunion, and that's true, because when we're traveling and we get like Airbnbs, the first thing my brother does when we go to eat, it's like, oh no, everybody at the table, everybody at the table, like a family. Our road crew, everybody is like, you're not just helping us, you're with us all the way to, if we're if we're in Germany and we're famous or whatever, you're with us. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're a part of it.
That's
And
really
if
nice.
anybody
nice.
ever messes with any of them, I'll straight up drop kick somebody from the
Yeah.
stage if somebody ever mess with them.
Yeah.
Because that's how we feel about them, because they are literally one of us.
And I also wanted to mention that Chigger, he films himself too, but not on stage. It's usually at home and it's private. Never mind.
I do. But talking about the instruments and stuff, I noticed that I don't know if these guys noticed it, but we played with Seven Dust a few weeks ago at the Tropicana in Atlantic City, and all they brought was a drum kit. Everything else was plugged in directly into the board. So this day and age, what I'm saying, I guess my point is, we don't need amps on stage anymore.
No.
I think I saw 6 a.m. at Starland Ballroom, and they didn't have amps on stage either.
No.
It was just a drum kit. So it's
But they have a-
getting to a point now where we don't have to carry huge amps on stage. Just that stupid big drum kit, and that's all we're gonna have to bring. I mean,
Maybe someday they'll have a drum kit in the PA system or something.
You guys are
Pops out.
funny. I want to ask you individually about your experience with songwriting, and I also want to touch on something that Nick said earlier. He had mentioned 9888. Now, I don't know if everyone knows, but 988 is the suicide hotline number. You can call for someone, or the person can call for themselves. I think that there's been so many people we've lost in music for taking their life. There's also a lot of songwriting that's been done about people that we've lost. But also, part of the songwriting that I've noticed is not taking your life, and it's fighting through the fight. I think that's really where we're headed, because we've kind of broken down the wall of people were afraid to talk about things in the past. So I think now breaking down the wall of being afraid to talk about something and also asking for help, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually being more supported. So I wanted to start with Nick and talk about your experience with songwriting, or if there's anything you want to touch on regarding the 988.
When I was younger, my favorite uncle, my Uncle Billy, he was the man. He had the motorcycle, the 8-foot python, and tattoos, super strong, built, and all that. One day I came home and my grandma pulls me aside. I'm the son of a truck driver. He worked real long, and my mom, she worked 2 jobs. So they were working from early in the morning till late. So my grandma was around to occasionally watch me and stuff. And she pulled me aside and she was like, "Your Uncle Billy, passed away." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was just a little kid. I didn't understand it. And it turned out that, he had some problems going on between he and his wife with the kids and a whole bunch of stuff I don't really want to get into, but it affected him so much that, he ended up taking his life with a nail gun. And that was the first time I experienced something of this magnitude. And I didn't understand what it meant until I never saw him again at any of our get-togethers or anything like that. And I got over it eventually. And once I was in high school, there was this young guy that was hired as one of the wrestling coaches, this guy, Sean. He was like 6'3", 240, just rock muscle. He was a great guy. He would give you the shirt off his back. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak on this, because this guy, Sean, was such a good guy. I would love to honor his memory by letting people know about him. In a nutshell, he would always go the extra mile to help people. What ended up happening is everybody in the school, because it's high school, everybody loved him. But all the teachers and the faculty, they hated him because no one else liked them. They all liked him, And eventually, at one point in time, a kid didn't have a ride home. It was raining. His mom couldn't pick him up, so he gave him a ride home, which, I don't see any problem with that, whatever. But the school said, "You can't do that. You're fired." Fired him right there on the spot. So, he said, "You know what? Okay, I'm going to go do my own thing." He ended up starting up like a gym for it was like tied to a law firm or something, and all sorts of stuff. He was doing all right for a while. But then, some things, happened to him. His mom ended up passing away, and that was the only family he had. He had no aunts, no sisters, no cousins, no nieces, nephews, nobody. It was just him and his mom in this world. And when he lost his mom, he started spiraling downward. He ended up missing a payment on his rental space for his job, lost his job. So there's nowhere to do the whole gym stuff. Not having income, he lost where he lived and his truck. So he had no way to get to a job. He had nowhere to live. He ended up living with, one of the kids that he had coached wrestling with back in high school, like with their family. And eventually he got the autopsy back about his mom, and it turned out that it said she OD'd on medication. The problem is that she was in assisted living. So that sent him for a big loop. And next thing you know, he passed away, taking his own life. The older brother from the family walked in and just saw him, hanging from a table. And it was very extremely traumatic to me. I didn't get over it for like 3-4 years. For a while, when I was writing music, like when I was younger, that's all I wrote about was stuff like that. I would try to listen to things that like kind of made me feel like maybe I wasn't the only one going through this, but like, it's just such a lonely place because every time it happens, it's entirely individual. Like if I said that I understand what you're feeling when you went through the same thing, I would be lying, because there's no one that will understand it the same way you will, because you've experienced all the little things in life, all those little memories, the smiling in the hallway or the high five or this or that, only you know that stuff, no one else does. So like to say that you understand how someone feels is a lie, but I can empathize with a lot of people who have been through that, in similar situations. I can't say I understand exactly what you're feeling, but I know a similar pain. And, when I write, a lot of times I focus on that. I focus on letting people know you're not alone. Like this world can really, really suck, and evil people can run it and do all sorts of bad things and get away with stuff. And you could be the greatest person you could be, but things just fall on you all the time. Everything goes wrong. Like, I mean, my last name should be Murphy. I mean, with Murphy's Law, like I feel like everything that could go wrong does go wrong. So I plan for that stuff. But like, when I write, I think about a lot of those things. I also try to think about who's listening to my song, and what do they want to hear? What would make them feel at peace, or what kind of, music has uses. Like you have music for driving around, music for working out, music for relaxing, music for, I don't know, getting high or something. I don't know. But you have all these uses for music. And I feel that, in my own way, when I try to write, I think about the use of the music by the person who's listening, and I try to put a piece of my life story into it and my emotions, and try and connect with the listener that way. I mean, after that, I was in college. I was working full time on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, while I went and took 23 credits during Monday through Friday. And I went to night shift once I graduated, and I was working with this guy, Mike Vaughn. And I didn't realize that, you just because you don't hang out with somebody outside of work or like, school or whatever, you're still around them all the time. And when my friend Mike Vaughn also went down the same path, no warning or anything, that hurt a lot too. And that's when I realized that like some people can actually be closer than you know. And it's the whole silly saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And that definitely applied there too. Like, and the thing that kills me is that none of them whatsoever ever gave a warning sign. They didn't let out like a little hint that it was going to happen or anything. That's why when I mention like 988 or just say something, hit us up, message Rahway. Like we actually care. We're human beings, and we understand that not everybody's made equally. Not everybody has the same things, and not everybody has the same fortune as others and all that. We understand that you're going to go through a hard time no matter what. If you're living in this world right now, you're going to go through something tough. And if it's more than you can handle, then say something. Because you know what? Paddy Pembleton, for example, the UFC fighter, he said before one of his fights, he got told 5 hours before weigh-in that one of his friends, took their life. And he even said it on national television. He said, you know what? He's like, I would rather have you say something and cry on my shoulder than me go to your wake or your funeral a week later. If there's a way that we can help, we want to help. And I mean, part of me wanting to go bigger is to reach more people and to, actually spread the message and just let people know like, yo, you're not alone. But we also want to give you the ammo to fight this world and all the things that come against us. There's always somebody that's batting against you. There's always somebody that wants to stomp you down so you're on their level and all sorts of things like that. There's so much negativity in this world. And you know what? You want to give you the ammo and the energy to be able to fight against that daily, if possible. And we want to entertain you. We want to take your mind off that if possible. We want to help, but at the same time, we're Rahway and we do what we do, man. We just go around partying and just crushing shows whenever we can and wherever. We just want to bring everybody with us. We want people to show up to our shows and just have a good time, and we want to just kind of give you a break from that negativity and give you some awesomeness, something to talk to your friends about, like, I just went on a giant rant.
No,
Apologies.
but
I'm gonna
I
pass.
appreciate the powerful
okay.
messages, but I also appreciate that you're saying that your band as a team, equally, you all agree that this is a message that you're putting out there, and that not just your fans, but your fans' friends and family know that your message is that you are a family and you are a team and that you're going to look out for each other. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Does anyone else in the band have anything to say about songwriting before we wrap up? Because I can't wait to play your song, Rocket Ship.
I guess the only thing I want to say is that most of our songs we try to write about hope. Looking up, looking forward. Getting up, get off your ass.
Nothing's depressing. Everything's upbeat. You
try to-
mentioned the pandemic earlier. We actually have a video where we filmed during the pandemic. No one else did this, but we had all our friends sing the chorus to a song, and we did it Zoom style like this, and they were all singing the chorus, famous people too. It was just a bunch of rock star friends, a lot of our local friends. It's called Sugar. It was on our Slumlords of New Jersey CD. If you ever want to check it out, it's on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube. But
Yeah, it is.
it was like one of the coolest things that we've ever done, and we were performing in the background acoustically. So all from our houses, we filmed our parts all from our houses while we were all quarantined at that time.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. Just tell me what your social media is. How are the fans able to reach you or download you or stream you? Just start promoting yourself now.
Well, you could start out by going to rahwayband.com and see where we're going to be next. You can hit us up on Instagram. All our links are on there. Shameless plug here. We have merch for sale if you want some. A lot of good fun stuff there. We also, at our shows, we do throw shirts out for free into the audience to whoever is the most raw and wild person out there in the audience. So, if you do come to a show, maybe you'll be the one to get the shirt.
We're also on TikTok.
Steve's a big TikTok guy. He's a big TikTok star. So
I'm a TikTok influencer. It's Rahway Music on TikTok, not Rahway Band. Everybody's looking at me like I'm an alien.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens next with you guys. And the big announcement for July is what again?
our full-length CD, Rahway, will be coming out through Pavement and Sony Records.
On the 25th, right?
July 25th, that's correct.
Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure to have all of you on. Give my best to David, who missed out. And we're going to roll out with your song, Rocket Ship. Thank you, everyone.
Nice.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Kat.
Thank you for having us.
Let's take a trip on a rocket ship built for two. Nowhere, living in the moment. Tell me, where do you see yourself? Past regrets in the shape of a bottle, all lined up on the shelf. Tell me, where do you go when love leaves you bleeding? All your hopes and dreams now receding. Come with me, I'll give you something to believe in. Let's look at the moon. Let's see where the stars. Let's dream about who you wanna be and who you are. Let's look at the moon. Let's look at the stars. Let's dream about where you wanna be and where you are. Lost your hopes and dreams to a liar. Memories now burn in a fire. With the Jameson taste, and I'll face your fears with you. I'll make sure you win when you know you would've lost off the rails. I'll steer it through. All your hopes and dreams, I'll relieve them. Anyone in the waves that believe it, come with me, I'll bring you back to life. Let's look at the moon. Let's see where the stars. Let's dream about who you wanna be and who you are. Let's look at the moon. Let's look at the stars. Let's dream about where you wanna be and where you are. and dreams to a liar. Memories now burning a fire. Oh! So let's take a trip on a rocket ship, build the day. Let's look at the moon. Let's see with the stars. Let's dream about who you wanna be and who you are. Let's look at the moon. Let's see with the stars. Let's dream about who you wanna be and who you are. All your hopes and dreams now we see it. Anyone in the ways left to be there. All your hopes and dreams, I believe it. Anyone in the ways left to be there. All your hopes and dreams are revival. Memories that put out the fire. Yeah.
You have been listening to Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium, Dream Central Station, LLC. My audio editor is Al Hemberger at the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, New York. This is WNEW 102.7 FM radio.